other media outlet is following the latest squirrel, which is Signalgate. We here at Lindell TV continue to ask the important questions. In fact, breaking news today, our Cara Castronuova asked the White House press secretary about the president's latest executive order related to election security. Listen.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for taking my question. I wanted to first and foremost thank the administration for the election integrity executive order, because so many journalists for 4 years were banned from talking about this very subject. So thank you to the administration for that. My question is, yesterday President Trump, when signing the order, said that there is more to come when it comes to election integrity. Would that include same-day voting and hand-counted paper ballots? And why are Democrats so against election integrity measures like obviously proof of citizenship when it comes to voting in a United States election?
Well, it's a very good question. You'll have to ask the Democrats why they're against so many common sense things, not just mandating voter ID. Why are they against men and women's sports? Why are they against deporting foreign terrorists from American soil who have been designated a foreign terrorist organization? I'm referring to Tren de Aragua. As for the election integrity executive order that the president signed yesterday, this is in an effort to restore trust in American elections. There were more than 10 steps taken, 10 executive actions taken throughout this one order. It directs the department, or the Attorney General rather, in Homeland Security to prevent non-citizens from any involvement in administering elections. There's also another host of actions. We can provide the fact sheet for you, but it's a very strong election integrity executive order, and the president would also like to see Congress do something about this very important issue. Sure.
And joining us now live from the North Lawn of the White House is Cara Castronuova herself, fresh off the briefing, dashing outside to join us. Cara, it's good to see you.
So, yeah, I mean, I was very, very honored to be able to ask a question today. I feel like that executive order was sort of getting overshadowed by everything going on with the signal. And so many people were asking questions about that. So I was glad to be able to actually ask another question about something that was completely off the topic of the signal chat. And, you know, obviously this is an important executive order. And you know better than anybody that we were banned as journalists for talking about election integrity and asking questions about it for 4 years. Obviously, the Biden administration terrorized journalists. So to be able to actually speak openly about this again, I think President Trump signing that executive order kind of gave the okay to journalists to actually be able to ask questions again about fair and free elections and all of the things that we believe are important is, you know, really just relieving for me and a lot of journalists that I've spoken to off the record.
Well, look, I know a lot of those people in that White House press corps wrote articles about me when I was talking about the 2020 election fraud and pointing out the history of the voting machine companies, talking about news that had already been reported in the public record. I was deemed a conspiracy theorist, and some of those people in that very room and those photographers would come by and take pictures of me as they put my face on their pages and deem me a conspiracy theorist. But Donald Trump is now taking decisive action. Oh, and I do have to compliment you on, Cara, being ready to ask a different question. Literally, you know, 5 journalists before you had asked the very same question. They didn't even come up with a different question related to Signalgate. They were basically asking the very same question. And Caroline Levitt was looking for around that room for anyone that would ask a different question. And you were right there in the moment, shouting it out. I heard you. And so congratulations on doing a good job there. But she didn't really give us any information yet on what's to come. And that's kind of what we're looking for now, right, Cara? We know that the president has already done this executive action, but there's more to be done. And we do expect more to come from the White House soon as it relates to election security, yes?
Yes, and she mentioned a fact sheet that we could obtain as well. And I know that President Trump has always been, you know, very much in support of same-day voting and hand-counted paper ballots. He's been on the record saying that, so hopefully that is what he has in store. And like Caroline mentioned, hopefully Congress is on board with that, because why wouldn't people want fair and free elections? So, and to all the journalists you mentioned in the room, you know, go ahead.
No, go ahead and say it. I was looking at their faces. I was looking at the reaction
journalists,
to your
right? They're you know, beating the signal chat questions, right? But where were these same journalists in 2020 when everybody was questioning the elections? It was such important questions that you know, obviously the American public doesn't trust elections. They don't trust elections. There's various polls that point to this. That people I speak to all the time don't believe that elections are fair. So these journalists are very much, I get, again, asking these questions about the Signal chat, but they were not asking these questions 4 years ago. And I'm sure some of them just were not interested in subject matter. But at the same time, there are journalists in the room, conservative journalists, that had these questions, but they were banned from asking them. They were afraid of censorship. They were afraid of repercussions. They were afraid of being sued and deposed. So these journalists, I think, really need to start asking important questions again in the press briefing room. And I hope that starts trending again.
Well, it is ironic, right? They're very concerned about this Signal chat that, as far as we know, we're going to dive into the more of this with our other correspondent, Alison Steinberg, in just a moment, and Brandon Weichert for more context. But as far as we know, and what the White House is saying is that there wasn't sensitive information in that Signal chat, but they're far more concerned about the security of that Signal chat and principles in the administration using Signal than they are about the security of our very own elections. You can't overlook the irony there, right? They're not the least bit concerned about our voting machines being hooked up to the internet or, vulnerable to a hostile power via cyber attack or cyber intrusion. But we'll get into that more with Mike Lindell as well, who's going to join us later in the hour. I can hear you asking for a follow-up, Cara, and that'll lead us into our next topic. I believe you were going to ask something probably about Judge Boasberg. Is that what you were going to ask in a follow-up?
It was about, yes, and maybe I'll run into President Trump today. I'm hoping when he does the women's event, and I could hopefully ask him that question about Judge Boasberg and really just the hypocrisy. I feel like the executive branch can check and balance, obviously, the judiciary, even more so. Obviously, there's check and balances, and obviously the judiciary is check and balancing the executive branch, but it could go both ways. And obviously, Judge Boasberg is the very same judge who didn't care about the due process of so many J6ers. And you heard President Trump mention last night in an interview that there will hopefully be compensation for some of these J6ers and the way they were treated. Their due process was absolutely shredded for the past 4 years. They were put in solitary confinement and held behind bars with no trials. Yet Judge Boasberg is talking about due process for illegal aliens and alleged gang members when he wasn't worried about American citizens. So I really just wanted to ask Caroline, the press secretary, if the executive branch plans on any more check and balances of the judiciary, which I think is long overdue.
Yeah. I hope you get the opportunity to ask President Trump that question. And I know that you have to scoot into that women's event in, I believe, the East Room in just a moment. So thank you for joining us live from the White House, Cara Castronuova. And again, good job on getting in there and making sure you got that very important question, because literally no one else was focused on it. And it is the basis of our constitutional republic. It might be the most important question of the day. I think it is. Cara Castronuova, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, speaking of judges, there's more fallout from the Signal chat message thread, as you heard Cara say, in which the Trump national security team may have accidentally or whatever included Atlantic senior editor Jeffrey Goldberg in a discussion about attacks plans on Yemen. Now, as a result of a group calling itself American Oversight is suing Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And wouldn't you know it, the presiding judge over this lawsuit just so happens to be the same Judge Boasberg who is holding up the Trump administration's lawful deportations of violent members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua. This was also the judge that was not only involved in the J6 cases, but also heavily involved in the whole Russia collusion delusion non-scandal during Trump's first term. Joining us now is Steve Abramowicz. He's the host of Heartland Journal and an expert on all of this lawfare that we're seeing. I mean, what are the chances, Steve, that you get the very same judge from the Venezuela Tren de Agua case? Now, Signalgate is going to be on his docket.
The chances are almost zero. Emerald, thanks for having me on. I don't know about expert, but certainly an observer for long standing. And it's just part of the ongoing lawfare battle. They couldn't win at the ballot box. They couldn't win in the district courts in New York City to take away Trump Tower. Now they've moved on to judges. And the shocking revelation for me was that they discovered 13 DC judges had never been judges before. These are Biden judges, and not even American citizens. So, well, they are now, but they weren't at the time growing up, let's say. So we've got people who might have dual citizenship. We don't know, affecting what a president can do, which is completely out of bounds in their constitutional job as judge.
Well, let me ask you, that raises a question, and I don't know the answer to this, and I think I should. I think every American should. It's obviously legal, or is it constitutional for a judge to have dual citizenship? To me, that seems like that would be a major conflict.
It's not. Only the president has that distinction has to be born here.
Interesting.
But what we're seeing, I believe, is a clash of cultures, just like a clash of titans, where, if you are, let's say, a Cuban, you have a different understanding of the Constitution and the revolution and what we fought for against the UK to get to where we are to this day. So interpretations are always going to be available, and we would hope that they would look at the letter of the law, because that's what a judge's job is. But what we're seeing is that's not the case. How can a judge, a district judge no less, tell a airplane in flight that the president dictated to remove illegal aliens from this country, where he has a right to do, that's what a president's job is, to turn around midair and come back? And because he didn't do it, he decided to ignore them, like Andrew Jackson ignored judges at his day, Marshall, the big chief justice. We're just seeing that these little tyrants in robes are willing to go outside the bounds of the Constitution at risk impeachment, which they know is impossible. But there is this little, poison pill in there where 51% vote will get them impeached for bad conduct. In my opinion, acting outside of their constitutional authority is bad conduct. So it could be done, but there's not political will there. And I just have to say that this was all kicked off by Roberts and Justice Amy Coney Barrett. They started this. She was nominated by Trump during his first term. So, thank you very much. But they are the ones that joined the high court's liberal wing to thwart his efforts to freeze $2 billion in foreign aid, which was halted to USAID in part of his drastic cuts. Well, again, judges have no jurisdiction over spending or executive orders, for that matter. So we're testing the bounds of Constitution. We're not in a constitutional crisis yet, but if they keep doing this, it will be. And the only judge who can step in and stop it is Roberts. Each district judge is overseen by one of the other Supremes, so he has to be the one to say, okay, Sotomayor, who got the job for being learned experiences, a little bit like, not being a judge prior, but now being a judge, because like Biden and Chuck Schumer wanted judges who would be activists, not judges who would read the letter of the law, like, rest his soul, Anton Scalia. So we're heading towards a constitutional crisis. And the frustrating thing, Emerald, is it's been 100 days almost, the honeymoon period for a president. Not a single federal law has been passed. So the Congress is all tied up in knots on this silly stuff and Signalgate, when they should be actually doing what the popular vote asked Trump to do as a mandate. But we're seeing that Democrats and moderates and conservative Republicans even are in the way of this, and the judges are just the new lawfare pawns in the game.
It's so interesting that you bring that up, Steve, because when I had Congressman Andy Biggs on the show yesterday of Arizona, who is actually one of those good congressmen in there trying to legislate and push, codify Trump's agenda along with other, congressmen like Tennessee's Tim Burchett. There's just not many of them, right? They don't have a lot of help. But I asked him that. I asked him about legislating. But then we also broached the subject of what Congress can do about these rogue judges. And here is what he told me about a resolution he plans to file, I think tomorrow, Thursday of this week. Listen.
Well, Article 3, Section 1 talks about, a lot of people, it talks about how long a judge can sit, a federal judge. And a lot of people think it's a lifetime, but that's not it. They only have a tenure during a time of good behavior. And who determines the good behavior? Well, I believe it's Congress that determines the good behavior. We set the jurisdiction, we do the confirmation, we create the lower courts, we can get rid of the lower courts, and it also says that they only have tenure for good behavior. So that tells me, Emerald, that what we could do, and I'm working on this now, this will be filed in the next day or two here, is an Article 3, Section 1 claim resolution that a particular judge, and we're looking at several, but we'll start with one, is no longer in good standing because they're not exercising good behavior, and they should be fired and terminated pursuant to Article 3, Section 1.
He plans to introduce a resolution in which they can look at the bad behavior of judges, right? He says that they're actually not lifetime appointments, that they can be removed for bad behavior, and many of them exemplify terrible behavior, and it would be justified. What do you think about Biggs' resolution that he plans to file?
I think it's 40 years overdue. I mean, the Congress, with him there, has been handing over the authority to the judges a long time. And I don't know if it was because of political expediency to be able to say, don't blame us at the voting booth, blame them. They're there for life as long as they don't get impeached, which is really hard to do. You actually have to kill somebody or commit a crime. Some of them may be, we'll see. But, I told you about strike one, which was the $2 billion of foreign aid that they froze at the Supreme Court. Well, strike two, in my opinion, was the Supreme Court declined to grant Trump's request to immediately fire the head of the Office of Special Counsel, saying that it would not interfere with a temporary order from a lower court that temporarily left him in place. Well, guess what? The Special Counsel statute, which allows for the appointment of special counsels to investigate wrongdoing, falls under the executive branch of the federal government, specifically within the Department of Justice. So Pam Bondi, she needs to reassert her constitutional authority for office of the president on his behalf, or we're not going to be a republic or a democracy by that matter, but ruled by judges like the Old Testament Moses and Samson. But, FDR had Hugo Black and Lincoln had Taney to get rid of Dred Scott. FDR lost that, by the way. He wanted to stack a conservative court to make it liberal like Schumer said he wanted. So all of this really, really matters. And the politicians like Pam Bondi need to actually take back all of this power that they've given the courts for all these many years. And so all of a sudden it hits a crescendo in 2025 because Trump's president. If Kamala had been president, no big deal. The beat goes on, more judges just like this. But now Trump's agenda is halted by unelected officials who really are there for life unless they get impeached. And there's only been 5 in the history of the country that have been.
You know what? We're not just in a constitutional crisis yet. I would beg to argue we perhaps are, but we're certainly in a crisis of courage, are we not? We need people to stand up, get courageous, go against these Marxists that I believe have taken over, and I can explain that more in a moment, but stand up, like you said, people in positions of power, Pam Bondi. We need more members of Congress to stand up and join in with Congressman Biggs and any of the other of his colleagues who are willing to do what they can from the congressional angle to try to solve this. And look, going back to the dual citizenship of judges, yes, they come from different cultures, right? Different backgrounds that might color the way they see the application of the law. I get that. See, but I also tend to think, based on what we've seen in our institutions across the country, from government to academia to, our intel community, I believe the judiciary has also been infiltrated by communist Marxist revolutionaries. Many of their parents came from communist countries and brought their ideology with them, like Judge Tanya Shutkin, who was one of those Marxist justices on the DC circuit that was they were using for lawfare when they went judge shopping in trying to arrest and put Donald Trump in prison. We have so much we can talk about with this, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's clearly going to be an ongoing issue, unfortunately, so we'll have to pause the conversation until next time.
Thank you.
We'll talk more about those communist revolutionary tactics and from whence they came a little later in the show. But next, after this break, we'll head back to the White House for, unfortunately, yes, a little bit more on Signalgate. But we're going to put it into perspective for you in a way that you won't see anywhere else. So stick around. You, my friend, need Native Path collagen, made with only type 1 and type 3 collagen fibers. These are the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body. It's found in cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, your gut. Type 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Also, Native Path collagen has no additives, no artificial sweeteners. It's also completely flavorless, which is important because Native Path collagen can be added to anything. I put it in my coffee. Also, because of its special peptide formulation, it mixes more easily than any other collagen I've ever tried, and I've tried a lot. But the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundled deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. Plus, they have a 365-day no-risk guarantee, making Native Path the trusted choice. All you have to do is visit getnativepath.com/truth. That's getnativepath.com/truth to start your transformation. Are you looking for monthly income without the risk of stocks because you don't feel like maybe you're well versed enough in the stock market? Well, here's something you won't hear about on CNBC. There's a unique way to collect royalties directly from America's most productive oil fields. No exploring, drilling, or operational headaches required. You simply collect checks month after month. And the best part? You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. The Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mike Lindell, breaks down what he believes is the #1 oil royalty play for 2025. Simply visit RobinsonOilBoom.com now for more information. That's RobinsonOilBoom.com. RobinsonOilBoom.com now for more information. That's RobinsonOilBoom.com. They're calling it Signalgate after Atlantic senior editor Jeffrey Goldberg was included on a sensitive discussion thread on the Signal texting app. The White House is saying it's fake news. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stating, quote, "The Atlantic has conceded these were not war plans. This entire story was another hoax written by a Trump hater who is well known for his sensationalist spin." And indeed, Goldberg is doubling down. He released the specific message that was supposedly sent by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth detailing specific attack plans. Now, when Goldberg prompted Leavitt to allow him to release the full text message thread, she responded in part by saying, quote, "This was intended to be an internal and private deliberation amongst high-level senior staff and sensitive information was discussed. So, for those reasons, yes, we object to the release." Goldberg then claimed that, quote, "A CIA spokesperson asked us to withhold the name of John Ratcliffe's chief of staff, which Ratcliffe had shared in the Signal chain because CIA intelligence officers are traditionally not publicly identified. Ratcliffe had testified earlier yesterday that the officer is not undercover and said it was completely appropriate to share their name in the Signal conversation. We will continue to withhold the name of the officer." So whatever really happened, it's obvious that this is going to be the so-called scandal that drives the Democrat Party's attack plan against President Trump, like the Russia hoax, like firing General Flynn, like the Ukraine impeachment. Already, it has consumed far more bandwidth than it should have, with lawsuits against Secretary Hegseth and calls for National Security Advisor Michael Waltz to be fired. This is turning out to be the first major media scandal of the second Trump term. Now, we'll keep you apprised of all relevant details here on The Absolute Truth as this bizarre story unfolds, and we'll put it into context for you because there's so much false information flying around out there. And join us now to tell us what is the latest from the White House is our very own Alison Steinberg standing by at the White House. It absolutely sucked up all the air in that press briefing room today, didn't it? Signalgate.
Yes, it sure did, Emerald. It was pretty interesting to see just the liberal media redundantly ask the same question multiple times when Caroline Leavitt made it very clear what the president's stance was on this. He said that he, fully supports Michael Waltz, that it was an innocent mistake and that this is nothing but a overhyped reaction from the left, trying to make something ultimately out of nothing. Allegedly, the Signal app was downloaded onto these government phones upon them, getting this job. So they just use this to communicate. And lo and behold, somehow this Jeffrey Goldberg was added in. How that happened is still yet to be determined. But Michael Waltz does take full responsibility for this slip up here, and also has stated that he is turning to Elon Musk and his team to further investigate this and find out how this actually happened. So that is still underway, still in the works, and we will stay tuned to see what happens there, if anything else is uncovered as far as how this happened and how we can prevent something like this from happening again in the future.
You know what I think is probably a good idea? Just don't talk to Jeffrey Goldberg, period. Don't have him in your contact list. Ignore him when he calls you. Don't treat him like a legitimate journalist because he is not. I mean, this guy has been used to push every hoax narrative in the past. He just shouldn't be in your thread. Okay, that's my take on it. Everybody knows how I feel about these
I
people.
agree.
And I'm sorry you have to sit amongst them now, Allison. Thank you for taking the bullet for me. I do find it interesting, though, because you've been covering so much of this Doge effort, right, especially as it pertains to USAID. So basically now we're also going to task Elon Musk with checking out the kind of security threats that we have, which I find interesting.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. You know, I am very apprehensive about the use of AI, especially within government. I think that if it falls into the wrong hands, it could potentially be used for our own detriment. But I guess for now, so long as AI is being used for good to weed out the corruption and also, you know, look into national security matters such as this one, then I don't see a problem with that, especially if people like Jeffrey Goldberg are going to continue to exploit a situation that really is nothing more than a conversation between some government officials. But yes, I think that, you know, if this is how we proceed, then that's a good thing, and it'll certainly be interesting to see what the Doge team can uncover as far as national security matters are concerned. This is unprecedented, a new territory we've never really embarked upon, so it's an exciting time for America.
I mean, what does Doge not do at this point? It's interesting. I think there's a lot to this. You know, the major media is running with one narrative on it, and this is being used in the way that the Ukraine impeachment hoax was used against him, Donald Trump, the way that Russiagate was used against him. It's a way to sort of like divide him and his officials, like they did with General Flynn, and conquer. But then there are some real lessons, I think, that the Trump administration needs to learn from this, right? So there are specific parts of this that we should look at, talk about a little bit, and hope that there's some lessons learned here. But it's interesting how they're going to, you know, pursue this with Elon Musk. We'll see. We'll see. Alison Steinberg, thank you so much for giving us the latest from the White House. It looks like it's a beautiful day there,
Yes,
too.
Emerald. It is beautiful. A little chilly, but beautiful nonetheless. Thanks, Emerald.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program. In the past year, we've seen an erosion of a decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public, likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus. Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is at its highest levels and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons.
So, according to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, Iran has not been developing nuclear weapons since 2003. Yet, the Trump administration is moving at an unprecedented number of assets into the Middle East, specifically to a key U.S. military staging ground in the Indian Ocean, little talked about actually, known as Diego Garcia. So what's really going on here? Join us now to help us understand whether we're really going to war or if these are rumors of war. And is our in-house geopolitical analyst and author of The Shadow War, Iran's Quest for Supremacy, Brandon J. Weichert. Good to see you, Brandon. We have a book for about every foreign policy topic that we talk about that you have written.
Yes, they say I'm prolific, so there it is.
Okay, so we've had 2 days. Of course, Signalgate took up most of it, and we'll touch on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
But what we have also discussed in the intelligence hearings on the Hill, Senate yesterday, House today, same cast of characters, is this Iranian threat. Now, the U.S. will have 2 aircraft carriers in the region and 7 B-2 long-range stealth bombers, as well as all the attendant support craft operating out of Diego Garcia until May 1st. You've worked on some of these matters in the past. What does that tell you?
So it tells me that I've not seen this level of operational tempo since probably at least 2011. I'd say probably not since the invasion of Iraq. This is why a lot of people are questioning whether this is really just about the Houthis or if this is part of a longer running strategy by the Trump team. And I've been on your show before the election, and I said if Trump wins, he's probably going to try to knock out the Houthis and then go at the Iranians. And already it looks like this might be not just about the Houthis or deterring Iran. This might be, we're getting ready to strike in the next month Iranian nuclear facilities, which Trump has said is a red line for him. But I think it's interesting. Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, has said they're not developing nukes. Now, I happen to disagree with that. I think the Iranians have rudimentary nukes. I think they've had them for a while. The question is, can they surge construction on these systems, and can they get reliable delivery systems? I don't think they're yet there. But the point is there seems to be an internal debate right now between the Trump administration officials on the question of Iran's capabilities and intentions.
So what is the official position? Do we have an official position on Iran's nuclear capabilities from the Trump administration in general?
Well, the president himself said about 3 weeks ago that we're, quote, coming to the end game on Iran. And he has made very bellicose statements about Iran, which is why I think what you're seeing in Diego Garcia. Listen, we have 19 B-2 stealth bombers overall. 7 of them by the end of this week will be based in Diego Garcia. That's about 38% of our entire B-2 Spirit stealth bomber fleet. So that tells me, and those systems are meant for doing one thing: penetrating advanced air defense systems and dropping very large bombs on hardened targets. So that tells me we're looking at targeting those Iranian nuclear and missile facilities. So Trump has made it clear, but now his DNI is coming out and saying that the intelligence community doesn't actually think Iran has been developing nukes. So there doesn't seem to actually be an official position, which I think is creating some confusion.
So how are they going to justify a strike in a month if that does indeed happen, if it's not about nuclear capabilities? Just, I mean, I guess going back to the funding of Hamas and what's going on in Gaza?
Yes, that's part of it. It could also be the Houthi threat. We know the Houthis are nothing without Iran's backing. The Houthis are increasingly threatened. I mean, look, the Houthis came within, I think it was 600 feet rather, of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower's flight deck last year with their missile. That is insanely close. So I think the argument could be that the Iranians aren't going to stop supporting the Houthis. We want to take out the Houthis. We might need to knock out Iran as part of that. Or this could be part of the Trumpian art of the deal: threaten the bejesus out of the Iranians and force them to the table. But to say that we're not doing anything against Iran, I think is very dangerous. And I personally do think that the president himself has said he wants to strike at those Iranian nuclear targets. I was on last week with you talking about how we handed over those Moabs to Israel. They can target those also Iranian nuclear facilities. Yeah. We're looking at a comprehensive strike package, I think, here.
Well, our friend Mike Yon says it's really about the Suez Canal and starting to control all the canals. That factors into it. We don't really have time to talk about that today. But Trump, speaking of the art of the deal, he did write a letter to the Ayatollah, but it wasn't well received, right?
Yeah, the Ayatollah, remember Witkoff last week personally hand-delivered the letter to the Iranians, I think in the UAE, and the Ayatollah a couple days ago roundly rejected it and said that the language was, quote, too hostile. So I think that indicates that maybe this isn't the art of the deal. Maybe this is Trump just getting ready to break somebody's nose.
Okay, finally, I do have to ask you about Signalgate, because here's what I want to know. And we're not talking about it in the same way that the mainstream media is. Right. But who was responsible for adding Jeff Goldberg? Because now it seems like there's the indication that there was a CIA official that might have been the one on the chat, or it could have been Laura Loomer's out there saying Alex Wong. And we've talked about Alex Wong on this show before. He's the Deputy National Security Advisor. We weren't particularly, we raised some issues about him being put in that position. So do we know which one it was?
No, it's not well known, but I will say there is an account called The Last Refuge on Twitter that everybody seems to love to retweet and follow, and he has good information. He was the one saying that it was this invite came from the CIA, and it's interesting, Jeffrey Goldberg is still refusing to share the name of the CIA official that was named by Ratcliffe in that Signal app as the point of contact for that discussion. So it could just be that Goldberg's source is actually the CIA guy, and he's trying to protect his source by putting it back on Mike Waltz. I don't actually know, but the point is this was a major unforced error by somebody in the Trump administration. Goldberg should not even be on these people's call lists. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's what I said. Is it an
Yeah.
unforced error or is it an attempt at sabotage? Because
It could be.
looks a whole lot like to me Russiagate, and whether
Yep.
it's supposed to take out. I don't think it's really supposed to take out Waltz. I mean,
I think it's supposed to take out
sufficiently-
Vance.
If it's Jeff Goldberg, he's sufficiently pro-Israel. So you and I think it's JD Vance, right?
I think the
But it doesn't
target is
seem to have
Vance.
worked.
Yeah, because they ran with that, saying, "Look, he's opposed to
Okay.
Trump," and they're trying to make him divided from the Trump base. It isn't going to work, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be working, but
No.
it's. I think we've gotten better at identifying these attempts, right? They
Yeah.
always follow the same playbook. I mean, it's not like they really changed that much, and they all behave
very
the same way. The
inorganic.
corporate media does the very same thing. It
Yeah.
really is. It's getting
Yeah.
obvious, and I think more people are waking up to it. Thanks so much, Brandon.
Thank you.
You all understand that? Yes. Election fraud. You've heard the term. We'll end it, hopefully. At least this will go a long way toward ending it. There are other steps that we will be taking in the coming weeks, and we think we'll be able to end up getting fair elections. Perhaps some people think I shouldn't be complaining because we won in a landslide, but we got to straighten out our election. This country is so sick because of the election, the fake elections and the bad elections, and we're going to straighten it out one way or the other.
Well, we've been reporting in great detail on this historic election fraud executive order. It is certainly an example of promises made, promises kept. A promise, in fact, made specifically to our very own Lindell TV CEO, Mike Lindell, who joins us now. Mike, it's so good to see you, to get to talk about this. I said this on my call with my team this morning that if it hadn't been for Mike Lindell, I truly believe this would not happen. I don't think we would have seen, and I know there are other people involved. I know there's other people who have fought too, but I don't believe there's been anyone who's fought any harder than you, Mike Lindell, and who has a direct line. You have a direct line to President Trump. Some of these people don't. So I truly believe that this is a result of your efforts. So congratulations and thank you, Mike.
Well, thanks, Emerald. And you guys, the key word he said there is there's more coming.
Yes.
You gotta love that. And just because you didn't see it on there, everybody that says melt down the voting machines and turn them into prison bars doesn't mean that we want to get to paper ballots hand counted. I'll tell you that. One of the things he put in there, Emerald, it says no barcodes or QR codes. And boy, you would have thought in old crooked Brad Rassenberger, by the way, in case you don't know him, when the Republican Secretary of State was so corrupt in the state of Georgia, Brad Ratzenberger, I expected him to say, whoa, wait a minute, man, we got to keep our machines in order. Brad Ratzenberger actually came out and commended. They said, "What a great thing! What a great start, or a great something." Comment to the part that he's acting like he's all about election security. Rubbish, but it is a great day. I'll never forget March 25th of 2025 because this is the start, you guys, of something so big. And Emerald, you know, people yesterday, they called me as other states too. You had Arkansas, good news came out of there about the machines not getting certified. And New York City, where they say, hey, citizens, of course you illegals can't vote. And then we had all these great news coming out of South Dakota. So when I said to people, Emerald, yesterday, they're going, well, they're going to fight all this stuff, this executive order. And I said, you know what? Here's the difference, everybody. Now our team's on the ground. We're in all 50 states with the Cause of America, and we're working from every county upwards. And it's going to be a lot easier when you get these uniparty people that sit there, they have their own agendas at the county levels, these clerks or whatever going, or these politicians going, we love our machines. We want to keep them. They're beautiful. Well, you know what? We'll be able to point to our great president and say, this is what we all want. This is what our president wants. Yeah, look there it is. Arkansas's voting machines to lose certification. This is the start of something very big too. Every state has successes going on that you all don't hear about out there. That's why you always got everybody, you got to tell everybody about Lindell TV, you guys, everybody you know, and spread the word. We need to spread our voice.
Yeah.
Emerald, I was another thing I was very surprised to see. Fox News even reported it. Now, come on. I'm going,
No
I would've-
way.
yeah, I would have bet against
Isn't that
it.
against the agreement they made in their lawsuit? How could they possibly do that with their settlement with Dominion and Smartmatic?
I'll bet you if it would have said anything, well, I was surprised, even with the not words, no machines.
I'm surprised they touched it at all.
For them to come out and actually cover it was amazing. You guys, I believe that's the first thing that Fox News has covered based on election security since probably 2019. And I'm not kidding. They have been, when I have
believe it
shirts that
is.
say, don't go Fox on me, that means that, don't go Fox on me. I was going to send Sean Hannity a text and say, Sean, isn't this news? Because I do that to him all the time. And, but then I seen Fox actually report it. I was blown away that was one of my biggest surprises yesterday. Him coming out with this executive order, that wasn't a surprise. He's all about it, and he does not back down. You guys, earlier this week when he had my good friend, the governor, Jeff Landry there, right in the middle of it, here's this company coming over here to Louisiana. I think it was a car company. And right in the middle of everything, the president goes, and we need to go to paper ballots, hand counted, same day voting. Elections are, just like France. You got to love the guy, Emerald. It's just, he's not going to stop. And he said another key thing, everybody. He said when he was doing that little talk, he said, even though I won in a landslide, we have to secure our elections. How beautiful is that, Emerald?
And he said, and I took this down, he said, there's a lot of people saying I shouldn't be complaining because we won in a landslide. Right. And I was going to ask you, I just bet there's still a lot of those rhinos, right? Those establishment rhinos, whether they're political operatives, staffers, members of Congress, they're probably telling them, you won so big. Why are you you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this.
100%. When I was with them a month ago, I said, sir, we cannot let these next 4 years be in vain. As you pull these miracles off one by one, I said, we can't ever, we have to protect our country. And I said in that office, there was other people in there. I said, 132 countries have banned electronic voting machines. Over 100 have banned early voting and mail-in voting. We have the worst election platforms in world history, not just, and we have the record, the worst. And we're going to go from worst to first in short order. But the president knows. He knows how important our election platforms are because it all comes from there. Every single thing you guys see done is the efforts of 4 years of people going 18 hours a day out there, just they're devoting their lives to try and, sound the alarm. We have problems with our elections. I've told all of you before, if they would have flipped it to Donald Trump back in December of 2020, we would have lost our country forever. We needed these last 4 years to find out where these uniparty people are, all the corruption. We need people to see how bad things can be. People finally got their eyes open and going, wow, this is horrific. We need to have people that are elected and not selected. Another thing I want to bring up, Emerald, is CISA. They had another thing yesterday, it kind of got lost in the news where CISA's on there. The president is taking away or reducing the people in CISA. You should eliminate the whole department, everybody. CISA actually did events in South Dakota, and the topic of their event was, if you hear anything from Mike Lindell, how do we stop Mike Lindell? It's disgusting. They have buried the curling report, the Rassenberger lawsuit down in Georgia, corrupt organization. And they have 4 letters and not 3. What do you make of that, Emerald?
I think they should get rid of it. And here's why, Mike. I have a little inside scoop that I don't think I've shared on the show yet. Now that you brought up CISA, I talked to a couple people on the inside over the last couple of weeks with this reduction in workforce. There's still a landmines there. And this is what the Trump White House needs to understand. And I don't know if they know yet. Talked to somebody in their orbit yesterday, someone working with Doge to try to, to ask their comment on it. I was saying, hey, what do you all have to say about this reduction in force? Here's what they have done so that people are aware. And I haven't even talked to you about this yet, Mike. because you've been so busy. I've been wanting to tell you this. So what I've been told from inside sources of CISA is that when Jen Easterly left, she put 2 women in charge as director and whatever assistant director. I don't know what the term is at CISA. But these are hardcore leftists. They are hardcore Biden ideological. So with the reduction in workforce, what they've been doing over the last few months in anticipation is they're shuffling people around. And the plan that the Trump team has right now is to take it down to essential workers. They're putting in people who are hardcore ideological subversives into these places to implant them, to embed them in CISA. So that's why I think you need to go ahead and just get rid of it, because right now, even with the reduction in workforce, the people who are left in that rogue agency are going to be the people who have gone rogue over the years. So that's just something else to look at. It's still good, but we need to keep that in mind. Sorry,
this
that was
is
my
just
little
a
scoop I had.
confirmation, Emerald, because you and I didn't talk before the show, and I was so glad to hear a reduction in CISA. I will be letting our great president know that you got to remember with CISA, Chris Krebs, they always said he was appointed by Donald Trump with CISA. He made a comment in November of 2020 that it was hard to get through that comment. Chris Krebs, the director of CISA, says that it was the most, what did he say? The most secure election in history. And then 3 months later, everybody, he's with Adam Schiff on Morning Joe, and he was asked, what's the biggest threat to our country? The same Chris Krebs said, bar none, a cyber attack by China right down to the local elections. That guy, all of CISA is corrupt. They blocked the biggest reports coming out of Georgia that could have got rid of the machines years ago. They blocked that report of Alex Halderman, his report, for over 2 years. I fought CISA so much. You're right, Emerald. They need to go. We need to replace everything with an election bureau. Isn't that funny? We have the election crime bureau. Well, but this needs to be. You need to have people in charge of our elections that know what they're doing, and that they're first and foremost that they're not corrupt and not part of the problem. And when you got CISA out there watching, and then these Secretary of States, which is only, by the way, everybody, there's only 2, maybe 2.5 now Secretary of States that I would even trust to watch my room for it, to keep it secure. They're all bad, the ones, and which one's bad, Republicans or Democrats? The worst 2 are Jenna Griswold from Colorado, the Democrat, so corrupt. And then the worst one for the Republicans is Brad Rassenberger of Georgia. But I always give Brad extra credit, Emerald, because Brad's supposed to be a Republican. And this is what I want to tell everybody. I told the president, I've told everybody, I've been saying this to everybody, we have to secure our elections. We have about 14 months left. And why 14 months?
Yeah.
Because it has to be done long before the primaries in 26. Why? Because that's where they steal these down-ticket elections. All of a sudden you get a candidate going, how did this rhino get to be in the general election? Because they stole it in the primary, a little press of a button. This is what's going on. And everyone goes, they all point to Donald Trump, say, well, he won. There's no problem. Why don't you talk to North Carolina, where Donald Trump wins by a landslide, but all the down tickets go Democrat? That doesn't happen, you guys, ever. And like Emerald, what he put in that executive order, no more votes coming in after election day. With that, everybody, you didn't notice it in 2024, but all of these down tickets, all these congressmen and 4 senators, they stole 4 senators and at least 9 congressmen, a lot in California. Well, why is it taking 2 weeks to count the ballots? Because every day, more and more came in. It's over. The Democrat won. What a miracle. Can you believe it? I mean, it's bizarre.
So let me ask you real quick. We have about a minute before you have to jump onto your next thing. You're a man in demand these days, Mike. So when do we expect more action from Donald Trump? He hinted that more would be coming. And I think there's more happening that people don't understand is happening because it doesn't seem overtly related to elections. And I'm going to go into that a little bit with my thoughts in the next block and a little bit of what I know. But when
Right.
do you think, because I know you know some things, and I know you might not can share everything, but what can you share with us?
I don't know his timing, but I know what's to come, and
Okay.
I'm not going to disclose that. There's a
Oh,
reason for this timing right now. I just know what's left out of that executive order, and I know where he's told everybody where his heart is. Paper ballots, hand counted, same day voting, 1 day
yeah.
voting, precinct level, all these things. So I'm looking forward to that. You guys can all find out what's going on with any election stuff going out there at lindellplan.com. If you want to help, you can go there. And also, everybody, the sister platform to Lindell TV is Vocal Social, vocal.com, VOCL.com. That's where you can go and be right down to your own elections, your own things going on in your backyard. Everything connects to our election bureau and everything. So that's
Everybody
Emma,
go visit those sites.
if we got a second too, I want to say, you guys, give you a My Pillow update. My Pillow just yesterday, another box store that we had got orders from actually canceled that order as our trucks were leaving. We had the product ready. This is still going on. They're attacking My Pillow. So we have all these sheets that we got for them. And what we're going to do is pass it right on to you guys that the wholesale price they would have had. The percale sheets, the queen size $29.98, king size only $34.98. That great promo code TRUTH. You see that, everybody? TRUTH. Go to the website, scroll down so you see a picture of me. You click on it. All these exclusive specials are there. Promo code TRUTH. Emerald, you're awesome. You are a blessing to Lindell TV and to our country.
Thank you. And speaking of My Pillow, I do want to add in that there's a $40. There's the spring My Pillow bed sheets. I always like the seasonal ones. Those are my favorite. Like I love the Christmas ones. Also, the you can save $40 on the new spring My Pillow bed sheets, any size, any color. So good to see Mike. Thank you all for all the support that you give us. After the break, we'll be right back to share my thoughts on what's going on around the globe, especially as it relates to Venezuela. You, my friend, need Native Path collagen. Made with only type 1 and type 3 collagen fibers, these are the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body. It's found in cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, your gut. Type 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Also, Native Path collagen has no additives, no artificial sweeteners. It's also completely flavorless, which is important because Native Path collagen can be added to anything. I put it in my coffee. Also, because of its special peptide formulation, it mixes more easily than any other collagen I've ever tried, and I've tried a lot. But the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. Plus, they have a 365-day no-risk guarantee, making Native Path the trusted choice. All you have to do is visit getnativepath.com/truth. That's getnativepath.com/truth to start your transformation.
In invoking the law, the president alleged that Tren de Agua is, quote, undertaking hostile actions against the U.S. at the direction, clandestine or otherwise, of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Director Gabbard, does the intelligence community assess that the Venezuelan government is directing Tren de Agua's hostile actions against the United States?
There are varied assessments that came from different intelligence community elements. I'll defer to Director Patel to speak specifically to the FBI assessment.
But let me ask you, so you're saying there are conflicting assessments that have come from the IC?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. We'll take it up in closed session.
So why did Tulsi Gabbard give such a careful answer when asked by Congress if Venezuela was directing covert military action against the USA? And why did President Trump just announce that any nation buying oil or gas from Venezuela will face a 25% tariff on American products? And why did the president order the deportation of Venezuelan criminal members known as Tren de Agua to high security prisons in El Salvador? You might be asking yourself, what exactly is going on here? Are we at war with Venezuela? Why is Venezuela getting hit hard by the new Trump administration? Well, a recent Miami Herald article sheds some light on this shadow war with Venezuela. According to a source, Tren Agua members are not gang members, but rather soldiers in a hybrid war operation against the USA. So yes, we are under attack. Here's Patrick Byrne explaining the situation on my show earlier this month.
About 2 weeks ago, Maduro, the president of Venezuela, went on television and said, hey, basically, in Spanish, and I'll send you the clip. He said, don't get angry at me, America, for sending all these people here. Biden told us to. Biden contacted us and told us, dump all these people on America, and I've got the proof. The world's journalists are welcome to examine it. So the president of Venezuela is saying, don't get mad at us. We were told by Biden to send all these people to America. So I think that's pretty clear proof Biden wanted to collapse the U.S. This Obama crowd wants to collapse the U.S.
Americans need to understand how the communist regime of Venezuela is involved in undermining our country. And yes, that includes even our elections. We'll have more on that later. And that's the absolute truth. See you tomorrow.